class. So we worked on comparing fractions using a benchmark fraction. Today we're going to work on comparing fraction using common denominators. So I'm going to show you a different way to compare a fraction, and you might hook onto the strategy and perfect. If not, no worries, but it is something valuable to learn, okay? So I'm going to go to my table of contents. I'm going to write my quotes so I don't have to write it twice. And I'm going to put using common denominators. I'm on page 57. Okay, so I have glued in or stapled in my notes for the day. So once you do that, continue the video and we're going to write our objective. So I'm going to write today I can compare fractions using common denominators. Okay, so I want us to look at our notes that we glued in, and let's just break it apart, okay? So here is our problem, 3/5 and 1/3. We are going to compare fractions using common denominators. This word common means must be the same. So your denominators at the end of it need to be the same. If they're not the same, you did something, you missed something with your multiplication. So when you're doing this and you're not finding common denominators, then you need to recheck your math facts really quick, okay? So you're looking at comparing, because right now they don't have common denominators, right? We have a 5 and a 3, and you'll see that finding the common denominators can show you right away if a fraction is smaller or bigger than the other fraction, okay? So step 1 is to write the first fraction being compared. So we took 3/5 and we brought it and we wrote it down, okay? Number 2, multiply by 1 using the denominator of the second fraction. Remember we learned that if a number is the same as if the numerator and the denominator are the same, this is equal to 1. So when it says multiply by 1, it doesn't mean multiply by the number 1, right? It wants you to use, usually remember how we talked about how you can come up with any numerator and denominator that are the same, but for this one they give it to you, so you don't even have to really think. They're doing one step more than you. So what you need to do is you take the denominator of the second fraction, and that becomes your 1. So that becomes your 3/3, okay? And then you just multiply across. So you go 3 times 3 is 9, 5 times 3 is 15. So you have your first new fraction. So you know right away that you're looking for a number or a denominator that is 15 as well. So you can kind of check yourself down here when you're like, oh, I got 12. I must have done my math wrong, okay? So once you've multiplied by the one they give you 3/3 because they want you to take the second fraction. Then you're going to write the second fraction being compared. So then you're going to write 1/3, and you're going to take the denominator from the first fraction. And that's going to become your 1. So instead of 3/3, you now have 5/5, which gives you 1 as well. Then you multiply across, and you get 5/3 times 5 is 15. So you'll see here that we have a 15 here, and we have a 15 here. That's what we call common denominators, because they have the same denominator. Denominator, remember, is on the bottom, down, denominator. They have the same denominator. So now I can compare because they have the same denominator, and I can just compare with the numerators, okay? Then it says step 4, replace the original fractions being compared with fractions with common denominators, which is what we did. See how easily you can just visualize, like, I know 9 is greater than 5. Super fast, right? When you find common denominators, it's super fast. So you can tell right away that 3/5 is greater than 1/3 because you found the common denominators, okay? So let's try a couple together. So let's, on my next page, I'm going to write example. let's say we're comparing 3/8 and 3/4. Okay, step 1 is to write the first fraction being compared, okay? So I'm going to write the first fraction, 3/8. Step 2, multiply by 1. Step 2 is to multiply by 1 using the denominator of the second fraction. So I'm going to do 4/4 because my denominator of my second fraction is 4. I'm not making this up, right? I'm pulling from my second fraction. Then I need to cross multiply. So I need to do 3 times 4 and 8 times 4, which gives me 3 times 4 is 12. And 8 times 4 is 32. Okay, so here is my first new fraction. The common denominator that I am looking for in my next fraction is 32. If I don't get 32, I did something wrong in my math. Okay, so step 3, write the second fraction, 3/4. Multiply by 1 using what? The denominator of the first fraction. Okay, so I'm going to multiply by 8/8. And now I'm going to multiply across. 8 times 3 and 4 times 8 gives me 8 times 3 is 24. 4 times 8 is 32. Look at that. So now I have these brand new fractions. They have the same denominator, and I can already see which one's greater. But just so I don't mess up which new fraction goes with which old fraction, let's revisit. So step 4, we have 3/8 being compared to 1/3. So let's draw our arrows. 3/8 became 12/32. And then 1/3, or 3/4. Whoops, I wrote the other one. 3/4 became 24/32. So, which one is greater? This one's greater, right? 24 is bigger than 12. So we know that 3/8 is less than 3/4 because we found common denominators. Isn't that crazy how just multiplying the opposite denominators gives you the same number? It's like magic. Okay, I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to do a quick one together with you, and then I'm going to give you one for homework. Okay? Okay, so let's do one more together, and then I'm going to show you a trick that you might want to use. So let's say we're comparing 4/5 and 1/3. First thing I got to do is write my first fraction and multiply it using the denominator of the second one. So I'm going to do 3/3 is equal to, what's 4 times 3? 12. 5 times 3, 15. Okay, so I'm looking for 15 with the denominator. Okay. 1 times 3, because I got to write my second fraction using the denominator of the first, 5/5, which gives me 5/15. So which one is greater? Is 12 or 5 greater? 12 is greater, right? So we know that 4/5, right, is greater than 1/3. Easy, right? Super fast. Now, I want to show you a trick that might even make it faster and that you can totally use, okay? Here's my trick. We call it cross multiply. And I'm going to use this problem up here. So here's a chant to remember when you're cross multiplying, which you can use when you're trying to find common denominators, okay? So we can say bottom up, across. So bottom up, across. So let's look at what that would look like. We're going to take this one. Let's say we have 4/5 being compared to 1/3. Here is how this strategy works. You go like this. It's magic. So when I say bottom up, I mean bottom, you multiply bottom to top. So you would go like this. Bottom up, across. So this black indicates multiplication. So 5 times 1 is 5. 5 times 3 is 15. 3 times 4 is 12. 5 times 3 is 15. Did I get the same numbers? Yep, just a little bit faster. Okay, let's look at another one. Let's do 6/7 being compared to 2/3. So I can do bottom up, which is 14. Bottom up, 6 times 3 is 18. Across. This is where my common denominators come in. 7 times 3 is 21. 7 times 3 is 21. Which one is greater? 18 is greater. So 6/7 is greater than 2/3, right? Because when you look up here, when you look at this example, you're doing the same thing, right? You're just multiplying 5 times 3, right? 5 times 3, 3 times 5. You're doing the same thing, it's just a step faster, okay? All right, I'm going to give you one to work on tonight for homework, and then come in ready to practice. Okay, I want you to work on these two using common denominators. You can do the first strategy, or you can do the cross multiply strategy, whichever one works for you, okay? All right, see you tomorrow.